India's border areas woke up to relative calm. They have woken up to relative calm today, hours after Pakistan carried out multiple violations of an understanding with India to cease military hostilities. Indian armed forces responded to these repeated violations in the appropriate manner. Now, after India's warning, no firing or shelling was reported overnight in the border areas of India's Punjab, Rajasthan and Jammu and Kashmir. In a late-night briefing, India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri said that Pakistan has been violating the agreement with India for hours. The briefing came after drones were sighted and intercepted in various locations over Jammu and Kashmir, including Srinagar and parts of Gujarat as well.
For the last few hours, there have been repeated violations of the understanding arrived at earlier this evening between the Directors General of Military Operations of India and Pakistan. This is a breach of the understanding arrived at earlier today. The armed forces are giving an adequate and appropriate response to these violations, and we take very, very serious notice of these violations. We call upon Pakistan to take appropriate steps to address these violations and deal with the situation with seriousness and responsibility. The armed forces are maintaining a strong vigil on the situation. They have been given instructions to deal strongly with any instances of a repetition of the violations of the borders along the international border as well as the line of control.
The violations followed after the announcement of an understanding between India and Pakistan to stop military actions against each other. According to sources, the ceasefire with Pakistan is conditional and there is no change in India's position on the diplomatic measures against the neighbouring country, including the suspension of the Indus Waters Treaty. Just to bring to your attention, viewers, ceasefire is a term that India has not used. It is an understanding, at best an agreement which has taken place between India and Pakistan. Now, this understanding came into effect at 5 p.m. local time on Saturday. However, just hours after that announcement, drones were sighted and intercepted in Jammu and Kashmir and Gujarat. Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister posted a video of the drones being sighted and air defence becoming active. Earlier, India said the Pakistani Director General of Military Operations called his Indian counterpart when an understanding was reached to stop military action against each other. Shortly after this, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar put out a message on Twitter stating that India has consistently maintained a firm and uncompromising stance against terrorism in all its forms and manifestations, and it will continue to do so. News of the impending agreement first came from US President Donald Trump on Truth Social. Trump said India and Pakistan have agreed to a full and immediate ceasefire after days of heightened tensions and cross-border attacks from both sides. Now, the escalation came from Pakistan. India has only been responding to this. Later, in another post, the US President hailed the leadership of both the countries for the agreement, saying the aggression could have led to the deaths of millions. He went to add that he would engage in more trade with the two neighbors and work with them to find a solution. Now, the agreement came after days of intense conflict between the nuclear-armed neighbors. India launched Operation Sindoor on the 7th of May in the wee hours in retaliation to the first escalation which took place on the 22nd of April in the form of the Pahalgam terror attack carried out by Pakistan-backed terrorists, killing 26 civilians in India. All right, we're now being joined by former Army Commander and expert on strategic military affairs, Lieutenant General Raj Shukla. Lieutenant General, thank you so much for joining us here on the broadcast. Sir, the last 12 hours itself have been, they've been confusing to say the least for the regular public. One would expect that there was going to be an adherence to that agreement between India and Pakistan. It didn't take Pakistan more than 3 hours to go past that and restart hostilities. What is your reading of this and these next 12 hours or today or the day forward? What do you expect?
My personal assessment is that after a period of intense hostilities, consequent to the understanding that we have reached yesterday on cessation of military hostilities, it takes time for these things to cool down. So I'm personally hopeful that they will cool down. But if they don't, we have nothing to worry. We have many aces up our military sleeve. The country that should be worrying is Pakistan, because we have ended the operations with the escalatory dominance firmly under Indian control, which means we retain the initiative to, take it to the next notch or not. And we have just as of yet unleashed only about 15 to 20% of our military might. So while we are all for cessation of hostilities, we retain all kinds of options. So I don't think have anything to worry.
Understood.
But the larger point that I would like to make is this, on the significance of Operation Sindoor. And for that, just let me take you back very briefly to the days of, Parliament attack, 26/11, and to acquaint your viewers with the mood of those times. One of those frustrations led a leading political commentator to say this. He said, not an eye for an eye, not a tooth for a tooth. For one eye, both the eyes. For a tooth, the whole jaw. Now, this was the frustration in the public mood. Yet another leading figure taunted our Air Force and said, देखो साहब, आप तो ग्वालियर से उड़ते हो और zoom करके अमृतसर में land कर जाते हो, pointing to our inability to use the instrument of force. And we got some very sane professional advice from Mr. K.P.S. Gill, a leading super cop and somebody who spearheaded India's fight against terror in Punjab. He said, you will not win the war on terror merely by chasing terrorists. You will win it by overwhelming the adversary. Now, it has taken us 20 years to convert that kind of wisdom into strategic reality. That is the significance of Operational Sindoor. If you see how India leveraged the escalatory ladder, it was astute, it was brilliant. We established new normals in our strategic outlook. What did we do? We said that we will target only the terror ecosystem. Yes. We will not target the military, not the civilian targets. But we expanded the swath boldly from Muzaffarabad right up to Bahawalpur. Rawalpindi, Rai-Wind. This is what hurts Pakistan. When Punjab was hit, this was astute, this was remarkable, this was brilliant. From the blunt instrument of Parakram days when we mobilized and did nothing for 24 months, this time you had an instrument of non-kinetic, precise kinetic strike.
Yes.
And look at the way, there was politico-military convergence, the target array, leveraging of domains. Any professional will tell you that it was pretty brilliant. What were the political objectives? Just 1 minute, just 30 seconds.
Please go ahead.
Just 30 seconds. Look what we did. For years, Pakistan said, listen, under the nuclear cover, we will unleash a terror rampage. And much of the world bought this narrative. We said, this will not work. This will not work. Terror as a tool in your statecraft will not work. You choose. If you wish to bolster terror, face our conventional might. We've called the schoolboy bluff of nuclear weapons. So I think we have really rediscovered the utility of force. And therefore, this is a seminal moment in our statecraft, a critical evolution of India's strategic military prowess. I think it's a 9 on 10.
Lieutenant General, and I feel you made a very pertinent point here that even when India goes up against a country like Pakistan, and this is only out of a retaliation because the first escalation came from Pakistan's side, India did not compromise on its morals because it's going up against a country which has no morals or any scruples when it comes to targeting it. They don't even differentiate between civilians, military targets, nothing. But for India's sake, it stood firm on its principles and only went with precision strikes on where they wanted to target and went up the escalatory ladder in a meticulous manner here. Sir, the statements which have come in last evening, there are statements which have come in from the US regarding, they call it a ceasefire, but the statements which have come from India, they don't mention any third party here. They've kept it as a bilateral understanding and an agreement at best between India and Pakistan, and the call first came from Pakistan's side. What's your assessment of these differing statements?
See, this is a new Bharat. We are autonomous. We make our decisions.
Yes.
We are a professional military. We can calibrate our strikes. We enjoy wonderful politico-military convergence. I've never seen this in the past. You go back to conflicts, there was often politico-military dissonance. This time, the Prime Minister, the Raksha Mantri and the military leadership and the other parts of the strategic military establishment have converged beautifully. We are also a democracy. We practice restraint. We are proud of our restraint as long as it's calibrated. So I think these are the signs of a very evolved, mature state. And if any help comes along from any other party, why should we refuse it? But ultimately, the decisions are on our own terms. And let me tell you this, what is unsaid. What really brought the Pakistanis to the negotiating table
exactly, that's
was
the
targeting
billion-dollar
of those air
question.
bases.
Sir, please.
Noor Khan base, now no honorable military professional will ever concede it, but the reality is for the world to see. This was military coercion at its best. And I tell you why it is so important professionally, because it was restrained, it was calibrated, it was not crowdsourced, it was taken after deep thinking. Now I am very proud. These are the signs of a very refined politico-military system and a very evolved democracy.
Lieutenant General, when you spoke about and this is what obviously the Foreign Secretary had declared yesterday during this time, they spoke about the targets that India had struck, the military targets, the air bases, Noor Khan, and of course there was a whole list that was sent from Skarda, and there were other regions as well. We'll go over the list as well, but what specific targets in terms of destruction or in terms of losses for Pakistan, if you can elaborate further, how Pakistan would be suffering after those precision strikes?
Okay, so listen, Pakistan's lead military collaborators were China and Turkey. Now, when the moment of reckoning came and when they had to respond to us, what happened to China's J-17s? We were told they are the most advanced platforms in the world. What happened to the J-10s? What happened to the Pakistani AWACS? What happened to its HQ-9? And here was our air defense system integrated air command and control system with the S-400s, the Akash Tirs, indigenous, and the MR-SAMs. We held firm. When the Pakistani, air power went up, it was brought down in a jiffy. Pakistan got the message that the key element, their Brahmastra, has not worked, and they have fallen in India's Chakravyuh. So that, their military what options does Asim Munir have? His air power hasn't worked. What will he do? And the possible flank of decision, the maritime flank, has not even been used. So this is the military decimation of Pakistan with some very fine statecraft, politico-military convergence. I think it's a very proud moment for India. And yet, we are always thoughtful and humble. I'm saying that, as our foreign policy gets more muscular, which it has to in certain circumstances, our instrument of force must be nourished and held in even higher levels of readiness. So we are humble. We are saying we need to improve more. Pakistan is just what shall I say, a balloon of hubris, and that balloon has been blown up.
Rightly said, sir. That was Lieutenant General Raj Shukla joining me here on the broadcast, sharing some deep insights from his own understanding and his own vast experience of seeing India evolve as a military strength. Thank you so much for joining me here, sir.
Thank you very much. Kind of you. Thank you.